to start our sessions. So we will present. There are another three presentations, after which we will have the discussions. So I'll just brief you about what are the mental and spiritual aspects of Arogyasamskriti that we have found. I'll just give you an overlay of the topics that we have had while we looked into all these textbooks. So, among the four facets of Arogya Samskriti, mental and spiritual perspective holds a significant importance, is what we found. This because the mental and spiritual aspects form the foundation upon which the food and lifestyle aspects rely. So, and of course, the planetary health is above that. And I think it is because of this idea that with a only balanced mental state and spiritual orientation that uh, one can effectively manage their food and lifestyle choices. So that was the reason, maybe because of which this mental health was also very important. And modern medicine has also now reached a stage where it recognizes a healthy society requires not only cures for diseases but also effective prevention. And this idea was there in our culture and system. And mental and spiritual health are crucial for this orientation. And such individuals can when they have a clear goal and which inspires them and motivate them, only then they can cultivate healthy habits and practices and culture. And this was very much evident in all the verses that we came across. So this principle was ingrained in our ethos and is evident across various treatises of Indian knowledge systems in great depth, and is even in those unrelated to medicine. So, like mental health basically focuses on emotional and psychological well-being here, and spiritual health encompasses a deeper sense of purpose and connection to the world around us. Both are aspects of holistic health and contribute to a fulfilling and meaningful life. So, mental health encompasses how individuals think, feel, behave, and handle stress, relate to others, make choices, whereas coping with life challenges, all of these form, aspects of mental health. And spiritual health pertains to seeking purpose, meaning of life, developing a sense of inner peace, nurturing beliefs and values, connecting with something greater than themselves. Like as previously mentioned by many of the our discussions, connecting, maybe it could be God or nature or universal consciousness with through expressed through religious practices, meditation, mindfulness, or simply cultivating a sense of gratitude. So, what difference we found here is that Indian knowledge systems, both medical and non-medical, there's a profound emphasis given for this, and especially this affirms that the outlook of IKS has always been arogya conscious, and mental health condition is not only it does not affect them mentally, but also eventually it affects the physical health, and that is the relevance of this topic, that even the mental health has to be taken care of. And as if anticipating this, our acharyas have spoken about the importance of keeping mind healthy through all these treatises. So hence we had a very rich education about mind, and it was very common throughout all these texts. And the aspect, like, in our Ayurvedic textbooks, you find diseases classified into Sharirika and Manasika. This is there. And you also get descriptions of, Manasika diseases with its nidanas, which means causes, its symptoms, the treatment modalities, all of those. While this and you also get references of formation of mind during the prenatal period, the nature of the mind and its afflictions are not detailedly explained in Ayurvedic texts, and this you get from and also if you look at we do not find a separate branch as psychology as such in Ayurveda, but we take the help of the the knowledge available in our IK's other textbooks, non-Ayurvedic textbook, which enhance our treatment approaches, which we greatly rely on the knowledge from these non-medical texts. So when we classify it, as of now, this is the stage. As of now, as Sir previously mentioned, right from the age of the Vedas, Upanishads, Puranas, this lineage of passing of tradition of this knowledge system being continued is really there, and we could identify about 75 verses from different texts, non-medical texts, spread across Vedas, Upanishads, Puranas, Smritis, Itihasas, Tantras, Subhashitas, Natya Shastra, Mahakavya, Nataka Shastra, Kama Shastra, Niti Shastra, and so on. And just to show you the time period of these treatises, right from Rigveda, that is from 1500 to 1200 BC, it has been there, and it has been continued after that with Upanishad, Purana, Smriti, Itihasa, and all. So you can see a very clear lineage wherein this knowledge has been passed. So this is very interesting that we found. So these many, about 25 sub topics were discussed in various verses which looked at mind and spiritual, mental and spiritual health. So control of mind and emotions, courage and strength, mental stability, emotional balance, inner peace, inner strength, emotional resilience, self awareness, self control, self discipline, stress management, anxiety, anger management, positive thinking, mindfulness, concentration, clarity of mind, wisdom, tranquility, contentment, equanimity, detachment, self empowerment, spiritual awakening, and self realization. So, these many topics were discussed when we looked at these 71 verses, and there are even more to add. This is just until now that we have got these many topics. So again, as it was presented in the previous presentation, the word cloud. So these are the topics, and the emotional balance, inner peace, emotional resilience. These are some of the terms, some of the areas which were very prominent. And if you look at, we have just classified these subtopics into 5 subheadings, like emotional and psychological well-being, mental strength and control, inner peace and tranquility, self-awareness and growth, and resilience and stability. So under these you can categorize, and this is how. So if you look at this, is a snapshot of a holistic mental and spiritual health. So it has touched upon all the aspects of mental and spiritual health, we can say. And this is what makes it interesting. It's not that only one part of it is told or some other part. You can see all the different various topics, very easily or very easily, described in a very simple language. So if you look, Agner Manasa Chikitsate, this is from Atharva Veda. So by the mind, the Agni is healed. So here Agni means the verse suggests that the mental faculties represented by Agni plays a very important role in healing and maintaining health. So it implies that mental equilibrium and positive thoughts contribute to overall well-being. Then, if you look at the Naishadhiya Charita, there is a talk about patience, peace, forgiveness, truth, courage, steadiness, and simplicity. These are the virtues that do not find space in one who is overwhelmed with grief. So, they are all just indicating that you should maintain certain level of mental equilibrium, and what contributes to all of this, and what are against this, like the negative thoughts like grief and all of these, how they affect a person. All of these are discussed. Now if you look at the reference from Padma Purana, food is indeed the to maintain the needed to maintain the body. The glory of family is enhanced by good health, good conduct. In times of crisis, friends become the protectors of life, and anger calms down in front of truth. So this is a very strong message that has been given. Annena dharite deha kulam kshilena dharite. So what sustains the krodha is what is mentioned here, which means what subsides krodha, anger, is by satya. So you look at the mental strength and control. Again, there are. This is I have just limited to only few verses. We have many more, but there's constraints of time. I have just mentioned this. Uh, One who cannot control his mind will find it difficult to control anything else. So, when you're giving such messages, people become aware that these are things which are very much required. So, these are some things, quality which are to be nurtured in one's. So, whose intellect wavers, whose mind is inclined towards the decay of lineage, such a person is not fit for dance. There's no doubt about it. So, why this came? Because this is from Natya Shastra. So, even Natya Shastras had that perspective that they had given so much of importance to mental health. Then again, there is a verse from Natya Shastra. Therefore, the control of the mind is also described in Natya. Success is the result of practice which is accomplished by humans. It is not by the gods, for success is for the benefit of humans and not for the gods or demons. So, this very clearly states that such qualities are to be nurtured, and this comes from just see Shastra, which is not at all related to health. But even in that, they had given such interesting aspects of mental health. Look at inner peace and tranquility. So, where contentment is abandoned, happiness cannot be found. Without contentment, no one can ever be truly happy. This talks about contentment, and this from Kadambari. Then there's a verse from again Atharva Veda, with the mind as the yajna stake, the whole world is upheld. So it shows the importance of the mind, how powerful the mind is, and it implies that mental harmony and balance contribute to societal well-being and health. And then a verse from Yoga Vasishta, as ma'am was mentioning previously. We also have a verse wherein the state of mental tranquility alone is said to be the fulfillment of all endeavors. For those whose mind are serene, everything is acclaimed. So this is like an encouragement to people. Self-awareness and growth. Therefore, giving up all attachment, one should take shelter in truth. By understanding the connection of the mind with senses one can achieve. So, the importance of taking the senses under control is given here. The mind alone is the cause. So, it has given the whole aspect how mind can be tricky. The mind alone is the cause of bondage and liberation for human beings. Attachment to the sense object leads to bondage, while detachment from the sense objects leads to liberation. Then again, a verse which says, "The mind itself creates the world, and the same mind is free from attributes. Mind itself creates this world of existence by its own power." They are very deep insights, mentioned about the aspects of mind. So now talking about resilience and stability, without perseverance and wisdom, there cannot be there can be no loss with courage. Then talking about patience, peace, forgiveness, truth, courage, steadiness, and simplicities. These virtues do not find space in one who is overwhelmed with grief. So then there is a reference in Mudra Rakshasa which says, "Whatever we think and reflect upon in accordance with the scriptures of humanity, even time, which binds with its nooses, it is incapable of disturbing. It's not capable of disturbing our mind." So, to conclude, the Indian knowledge systems have traditionally prioritized mental and spiritual well-being, which is very evident from the extensive coverage of diverse topics. And these texts historically served as tools. This is how we understand it now, for spreading awareness among people from all background. It should be available to everyone, whichever background they are from. So this was there in all the texts, all the classes and philosophical beliefs. The ancient wisdom in these texts remain a potent source for even modern mental health practices and should be made available to today's society. And the rich traditions and perspectives of Indian knowledge systems offer valuable insights into mental and spiritual health, essential for addressing current societal needs. So, initiatives should be undertaken to disseminate these messages across all demographics, including classes, religions, streams. So, we should not limit it to saying that this is only to a particular religion that this is there. It should be spread across as a as awareness to everyone, and promoting this knowledge can help reduce the disease burden by encouraging healthier thinking and fostering more aware and balanced society. So these are very few, very in a nutshell, maybe to put it all together, that I have presented the mental and spiritual well-being discussed, but there is a lot more. And yeah, in Ayurveda, even though we treat mental disease conditions and all, we don't find all the aspects of mind being described. So all these things we find it in the non-medical texts.
Namaskar. So the topic that is given to me is diet. From the spectrum we are speaking about physical health. So here I'm just concisely presenting my findings, what I have compiled. Here, what I would like to explain basically is the non-medical textbooks that I have taken, all these, slokas that I obtained. So the most amusing part is that, when we were discussing about which topic who can take and present, comparing the others, I thought that, food may be comparatively less, but what I found is that food was the one that had the maximum number of references from all these non-medical textbooks. So I'm not going to explain about these textbooks. This is just to show that all these we have the Nataka category, the Itihasa, we can see the epics, we can see even Arthashastra, We can see, Auchitya Vichara Charcha, which is nothing but critical assessment of literatures that are, being published or written. So even in these textbooks, we have variety of references that we get regarding the practices or behavioral patterns to be followed pertaining to food. So in this food and nutrition category, the number of textbooks that we referred, non-medical, were about 23. But you can see last part, I have even added 3 Ayurvedic textbooks because some basic concepts mentioned, they were even matching with what is mentioned in the non-medical textbooks. And I got about 170 verses. So in the slides, there were about 58, but I cannot explain all those here, but I'm going to concise it here. Now, this is the word cloud. From this, what we have to understand is that food and nutrition was not being considered just from, a medical perspective or just for maintaining health. But we saw that what is the time you have to take food, after taking food, what you have to do, what you should avoid. And like Sujatha Warrior ma'am was explaining earlier, if you can have a category about, Aushadha and medicines or, even dravyas, herbs. I didn't want to intercede then, but I have compiled those also. We got a compilation about the basic ahara dravyas. The quality of this has been explained. Properties of this are being explained in a way that a common man can understand. Not like we study in Dravya Guna, means in pharmacology. But here, the properties have been explained that a normal man will know how good it is for your health. So this is the overlay of my topics. I put it in this format so that we understand the range of topics being covered in our non-medical textbooks regarding food and nutrition. So in this, you can see the first column I have put in the left where I have listed the topics. Those are the main headings. Yes, you can see just there is introduction about food, there is introduction about hunger, benefits of food is mentioned. Then what are the do's and don'ts? So any topic we discuss, I'm sorry, we are always going to say, okay, this is what is to be done, this should not be done. So in food also, we got so many do's and don'ts from these textbooks. Then we have the method of eating, which I think in Ayurveda, you get references scattered in different textbooks. Then you get it from Sadvrita. So it is scattered. But here you see with very simple slokas, they have explained how food has to be taken. Then we have a connection between food and health being explained, a connection between food and disease. We should remember these are not medical textbooks, but they have stated what can cause a disease, how food can prevent a disease, and how you can actually maintain your health. And finally, we also got Ahara and Aushadha. So I'll just run through. This is because our discussion in the morning started with SDG. So I wanted to tell that according to the WFP, zero hunger is the second SDG because this is one of the biggest problem that the population is facing. So this is the hunger statistics that we have got. And you can see that food waste is another major problem. It's not that we don't have food produced, but a huge percentage is being wasted. So that is also contributing to this hunger issue. Now coming to the definition of food onwards, I'm not reading the Sanskrit slokas because we are just covering the topics. You can see the beauty with which they have explained what food is. Ahriyate pranabhi means it is something that an aharana is done. It is grabbed. So we are not telling that, you ask for it or you receive it. There itself you are explaining your psychological presentation, you're explaining your, physical presentation, physiological presentation when it comes to hunger. And this is from an Upanishad. So this concept is actually telling food is everything, means it maintains life. So these verses are taken from Mahabharata, which is a very popular book, and then we also have another Upanishad. I also found references in the Bhagavata which says that explains about food chain. Yes, we study in science about food chain. So here there are even verses which says Falguni Tatra Mahata means the weak will become the food of the strong. So we know, what do we say? Darwin's theory of evolution, we say survival of the fittest. Yes. So here, in our age old, centuries old textbooks, they have mentioned the same thing. The weak will become the food of the strong. So such interesting concepts, how they have connected to food chain. What Bhagavata has explained is, that which does not have hands, it will become the food of the that which has hands, that which does not have. So in a different way, they have explained the food chain. This is very interesting, where it is like a poetic explanation of the verse, where it says that a hungry person cannot eat grammar. It means that there is no alternative for food. So earlier also we had discussed about, means there were verses which mentioned that how much ever beautiful things or whatever can attract you, if you are presenting to a hungry person, he is not going to be satisfied. For hunger, it is always, the solution is only food. So here what we are trying to project is that, food is life, food maintains life, and then there is no alternative for food. Then you can see they have told what should be your conduct towards food. So we know we have the prana huti, here in ashram we do the brahmarpanam before food. So there and all, you are, taking it like a vow that you respect food, you understand that it is giving life to you. So these are some basic conduct that is mentioned to be followed towards food. And there are no rules for a hungry man. So this is very interesting. This is from Chanakya Sutra. We know that Chanakya is a person, who's an expert with military strategies and political science. And you can see that he has explained this verse, showing that, hunger is something that is, the biggest problem which needs a solution, and it will definitely exist in the society. So we should understand that there is nothing for a hungry person which is abhakshya. For him, the rules don't hold. So food is like a tapas. This is from the Garuda Purana. So Garuda Purana is one of the 18 Mahapuranas, and here in very simple verse they have mentioned there are two aspects that we should know. It is bhojyam, means you need food, and then the bhojana shakti, means the food that should be digested, or appetite to digest the food. These are the two major criteria pertaining to food. So it is like a tapas. If you have these two, then it means that you are with a good karma, or you are you have done a good tapas and you are experiencing the phala of that tapas. So these are actually Ayurvedic terms. We study this in our BAMS. What is Hitahara? What is Mitahara? It is very interesting that, about Hitahara, the references are being placed in Mahabharata. And you can see another textbook called the Bhoja Prabandha. This is mostly, about, this book was written about the poetry and the literature and the excellence that was happening during the reign of King Bhoja. But there also, they have mentioned that what is the type of food that is required, or what is considered to be the appropriate food. So two qualities are mentioned. One is Nigda and Ushna. So I would say these are actually, the major treatment concepts that we study in Ayurveda also when we are dealing with the doshas. So this is a very, we can say actually something that science has proven and research has proven, that we know that, whatever the mother is consuming during the conception or during pregnancy period, it will affect the child. But this concept is very interesting in the fact that it has told that even in the future generations, it can hold its effect. And the example that is given here is, a lamp, though it devours the darkness around it, there is always a deposit of soot there. So that is expected. And whatever you eat, and I found there has been research happening which says that it's not only during the pregnancy period what the mother consumes affects the embryo, even pre-conception. There is something called the nutrient score, and that score, if it is very low, if the mother has been malnourished during pregnancy, it can actually affect your child. So this is very interesting. We have a Sanskrit quote for, like we say, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. We have a verse from Arogya Subhashitam, which says, one who eats the appropriate food and in the proper quantity can keep the physician away. So that person is the physician's enemy. So two factors pertaining to food, that is quantity, and then we have got the right food. So I'll just rush through the topics. Here we have, they have explained how hunger is becoming a trigger for immorality, where you can even be forced to, commit crimes to quench your hunger. Then Shiva Purana says that, so this is a very religious textbook that is, in line with the devotion to Shiva. And you can see this book mentions that there is no dukkha like that of hunger, and there is no disease like that of hunger. So all these textbooks, they are trying to convey the message that, hunger is one of the major issues in a man's life, and that how you have to address it. Then health benefits are mentioned. So here you can see all the physical aspects, the psychological aspects, everything has been attributed to the type of food or the food that you take. So these are the do's and don'ts of food, the points I have mentioned, where they say that, the food should be taken only as recommended, and always follow the path of dharma, so that, you can earn your food in the right way. And this point is very, very important, because, we study what are in Ayurveda, what is Patyahara, what is Apatya, but Mahabharata has mentioned in simple terms three points for a good food. The first one, that which should be edible. The second point is it should be easily digestible, what we call as laghu. And the third thing is it should give you some benefit after it has been digested. So these are the don'ts of food. You can see excessive eating has been connected to a lot of negative effects on the body, and emotional aspects connected to, when you're taking food, that can also affect the way in which the digestion is happening. And ajirna is an interesting context that has been explained in these non-medical textbooks. So we study Ayurveda, Ayurveda we study ajirna as a disease itself, but here you can see they have considered it as a normal condition that can occur in a normal man's life. So this is the method of eating. This is from Vishnu Purana, which says, means what is the quantity of food that you have to take. And the time has been mentioned, so that we are getting from Malavika Agnimitra, which is by Kalidasa. So here we are getting actually what is, the punch points to be followed when you take food. That is Hita, Mita and Medya. So it should be appropriate, it should be in proper quantities. And Medya here we are meaning wholesome food, which is uncontaminated. So number of meals that has to be taken. So this is very, very interesting. We can see depending upon the number of times the meal is taken, the effects has been explained in Vaidikiya Subhashita. So a person eating 4 times in a day, it is definitely going to cause death. So here food is being mentioned as a causative factor for both, cause for disease, and it can also help in the prevention of disease. So now I would like to show, so this, because Sujatha ma'am was mentioning about this, I found, the properties of all these food materials has been mentioned in the textbooks. So it is very interesting. When we saw grains, they have mentioned specifically that grains should be properly cooked. If not, it is going to cause harm to your body. We were discussing about millets also in the morning. And they have mentioned a combination of rice and dal, specifically saying that it is excellent for health. So we know we have some very popular recipes with rice and dal mixed together. So these textbooks say that it is a very good combination for health. And garlic, interesting thing is, the verse goes that even on taking garlic, the disease is not cured. That means that it is one of the best aushadha. And I found references to the properties of Haritaki. So if our panel of experts are not familiar with this, it is Terminalia chebula. And then we have got Vacha, which is Acorus calamus. Then we have dried ginger. Then Guduchi is Tinospora. So all these, the properties have been explained in detail. So with this, I would like to conclude saying that as much as we have been studying in the Ayurvedic textbooks, these non-medical textbooks, they have explicitly covered all the points that a normal person or a layman is supposed to know about food, the type of food, the way in which you eat, the do's and don'ts. All this has been covered, and even the spiritual aspects, we get a lot of recommendations from these non-medical textbooks. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, respected members of the scientific panel and dear PG scholars. In the earlier sessions, we have discussed about the vast information on different aspects of health like diet, planetary health, mental health, etc. in the non-medical Sanskrit literatures. Now, we are going to share some of the insights regarding healthy lifestyle that remained in these literatures. So these are the textbooks from where I have compiled the data pertaining to healthy lifestyles. Around 25 books were referred and 50 plus verses were compiled. These were some of the textbooks which are less discussed or maybe less known to the public. The Abhastamba Grihya Sutra, Daksha Smriti, Chadurvarga Chindamani, Achara Ratna, Achara Mayogha, Brihat Samhita, Malla Purana, Nirnaya Sindhu, Chanda Kaushiga, etc. And from this, most of this comes under Dharma Shastra textbooks that deals with dharmic rites and observations. Some like Chanda Kaushiga belongs to the Nadaga or drama category that deals with the story of King Harishchandra. And Malla Purana is an interesting text that discuss about the various aspects of physical fitness, wrestling. It is a Purana of the Jeshti Mallas or a caste of professional wrestlers found in Gujarat, Rajasthan, Maharashtra, Mysore and other parts of India. This is the spectrum of data, the word cloud. Now this is the overview of contents. The data compiled is arranged under these subtopics. Now, the cultural heritage of India is very rich and have its constant impact on every feature of the society, including lifestyle. And wisdom through these ages have survived through this many years due to their sheer practicality, as well as they are capable of transforming the society. So, this is a sloga from Yajurveda, that is Pashyema Sharadashadam, Jivema Sharadashadam. Let me see 100 autumns and let me live 100 autumns. So, from the time immemorial, the primary desire for the living beings is the desire for life or long life. It is seen in Ayurveda also, there is the concept of praneshana, which is the fundamental desire of human beings. Seeing in the modern concept also, in modern psychology also, like the motivational theories like Maslow's, when they are giving a 5-tier model of human needs, the physiological needs are the first ones to which are mentioned. So this itself implies the need of or the desire of human being for long life. This is the motivation, or this is explained here because this long life is the motivation to maintain that health or protect that health. This is a slogan from Kumara Sambhava, Sharira Madhyam Khalu Dharma Sadhanam. So imagine how pity it is to have a long life without a healthy body. So Sharira is the primary instrument for Dharma. So effectively fulfill one's Dharma or to attain these Purusharthas, which is the ultimate aim, the maintaining a healthy body is paramount. And without good health, we will not be able to perform these duties. So just as one maintain and care for any instruments to ensure its optimal functionality, the body also requires proper maintenance. There are some other slokas also like Punarvittam, Punarmitram, Punarbharya, Punarmahi. That is, everything in life can be regained, like wife, kingdom, friend, wealth. Everything is, if lost, can be regained. But it is not same with the case of Sharira. Ajarayat labadehi ayuhu. The righteousness gives long life, or from good conduct one obtains longevity. Again in Ajara Ratna text, it describes Ajara as Ajaraha Pravritti Vishayatvam. That is, it is told that the Ajara is characterized by engagement in activities and involving in this Vishayas. So this underscores the intrinsic value of good conduct in enhancing the quality and longevity of the life. It reflects the holistic approach where physical, mental, social, and spiritual well-being are interconnected. So this is not about individual health, but it is about fostering a harmonious and supportive community, or community health is also implied here. So this is a statistic showing the disability adjusted life years. These are the measure of overall disease burden expressed as the number of years lost due to ill health, disability, or early death. And according to the survey in 2019, the DALYs due to communicable diseases have reduced, and DALYs due to diabetes increased more than 80% between 2000 and 2019, and from Alzheimer's disease have more than doubled between 2000 and 2019. So it is the right time to address these lifestyle diseases, which can be prevented and controlled to a certain extent by making the behavioral changes. So, the non-Ayurvedic Sanskrit literatures plays a significant role in fostering the health intelligence or the Arogya Buddhi by providing practical wisdom and guidelines for maintaining health. And this health intelligence is essential for the attaining the Purusharthas, that is Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha. And by incorporating these health promoting practices from these textbooks, the individuals can lead balanced life and fulfill their personal as well as social duties. These are some of the daily routines that we found from different non-medical textbooks. The definition of Brahma Muhurta, even if Ayurveda advises to get up early in Brahma Muhurta, the exact definition of Brahma Muhurta is not seen in our Brihatrayis. So there were many references from the non-Ayurvedic category giving the definition of Brahma Muhurta. The one is the last part of night is called Brahma Muhurta. Paschimaya Brahma Muhurta, Ratreshu Paschimo. The same reference is given in Ratnavali, Manusmriti, Skanda Purana, Hari Bhakti Vilasa, etc. And in Skanda Purana, this time is called as Arunodaya period. And these are some of the morning routines that were explained. That is, the one who is seeking dharma should get up in Brahma Muhurta, and then he should do Chindana. That is, what was the action that he did yesterday, what is the action that he is planning to do today, and how he should behave that day. Everything is told in this textbook. This is from reference from Manusmriti. Then also the routines to be done in morning itself, that is like snana, dandadavana, anjana and prayer or devada pujana. These should be completed by morning itself. It's told in Manusmriti. Next is about Shauja. Shauja, a person should ever try to maintain Shauja in whatever work he engages, and according to Daksha Smriti, without such adherence to Shauja, all the activities and works that is done will be Nishphala. And our ancestors was very concerned about hygiene, and the culture of washing hands and legs regularly to keep safe from the infections were practiced. And it is evident from the story of King Nala being affected with Kali for being careless, and this lapse made him vulnerable to Kali. These are some of the types of Shauja seen in Mahabharata. 5 types were mentioned: Manashaujam, Karma Shaujam, Kula Shaujam, Sharira Shaujam and Vak Shaujam. See, equal importance was given to both Bahya as well as Abhyantara Shauja. Now regarding Malotsarga, proper cleanliness after evacuation is highlighted, but the number of times each part should be cleansed, etc. were based on the Chadurvarnya system. Now, filling the mouth with water after evacuation was seen in Abhastamba Grihya Sutra. 4 handsfuls of water after urination and 8 hands after defecation was advised. Now, regarding Dandadavana also, the toothbrush twig or which material should be used were according to the Varna Vyavastha, and the contraindications were mentioned in Vishnu Purana. And some of the other morning routines are filling the mouth with cold water, sprinkling eyes with water to prevent eye diseases. And it is told that it was well known among the learned physicians of those days, this washing of eyes for preventing eye disease. And followed by oil massage, Vyayama, etc. were advised in Brahma Vaivarta Purana. Vyayama one of the distinctive aspect highlighted in Malla Purana pertains to the correlation between the individual constitution and the preferred form of exercise. And in Malla Purana, it is told that the massage should align with one's constitution. That is, Vyayama for Kabhanasha, Mardini for Vadanasha, and Snana for Pittanasha. Again, regarding exercise, the levels of physical exertions were categorized as Alpasrama, Ardhasrama, Purnasrama, and Adhisrama, which aligns with the 4 levels of aerobic activity outlined in the modern activity guidelines for Americans, MET or metabolic equivalent of task. Again, it also introduces Adhisrama, exceeding recommended guidelines, cautioning against adverse effects like fainting, increased thirst, etc. Regarding Snana, in Daksha Smriti, it is told that since our body is extremely impure and endowed with the Navadwaras, and which is exuding day and night, therefore one should take bath in the morning. Then Snana Vidhi is told in Ajara Ratna that one should do Snana standing in navel level deep water, and after rinsing oneself 3 times, this is the prescribed way of bathing. Then regarding Sandhyacharya, 4 activities which should be avoided during the Sandhya is explained. That is Aharam, Maidunam, Nidra, and their consequences were also explained. Then according to Manusmriti, one should not eat at the junction time, that is Sandhya, nor one should go to sleep without eating. Then regarding Ratricharya, the early part of night and last part of night should be spent on learning Vedas, middle part on sleep, and also one should avoid some things like crossroad, shade of sacred trees, etc. for sleeping, as in Vishnu Purana. Regarding sleep and in its relevance, in Skanda Purana, it is told that Ardha Roga Hari Nidra, and also the one who sleeps contently experiences happiness during sleep and upon waking up. Then the benefits of sleep is discussed in Chanda Kaushika, that which is a drama about King Harishchandra's life. Now these are some general instructions. Here see, even advice about procrastination is told. That is the verse from Vidura Nidhi. Do such a work through the day so that you can sleep peacefully at night. Then a healthy lifestyle does not become complete without adding Sadvrita. So Sadvritas regarding speech, action, etc. were also discussed. Then ethics related to substance abuse, that is the use of madhya should not be given, should not be drunk, and it is also untouchable, it is told. So there were a lot of sources and slokas referring to health details scattered in various non-Ayurvedic literatures. So only very few we have explained here. Just as is said in the words, there are infinite number of scriptures, limited time, and many obstacles. So the essence should be taken just like a swan feed on pure milk only. Thank you.
So I think we can have a discussion now.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for this very
I wanted to say one thing, that verse Acharat Labhate Hyayu is emphasizing on behavior. I mean, it would be good to translate Acharat as, they had highlighted the idea that it is only through behavioral change that you can, bring about.
Yeah. So yeah, it's very comprehensive. Few thoughts I will quickly share. One is except in Janapatodhamsa, I think the idea of Janapatodhamsa is the talk about epidemics, and the idea of community is slightly missing. Ayurveda mainly focuses on individual health, and from there building into family health and community health, etc. So as such, approaching a community with a health perspective is seen mainly in Janavadodhamsa. And that is where I think there is also a challenge for Ayurvedic community to deeply get involved in community health dimension. Because everything is, now it has become very clinical specific, not even individual specific, it is very clinical. So I think we have to overcome all these barriers to implement really community health oriented strategy. Now, the second point I want to mention is about, I think one good classification system would be to look at from which angle each of these texts come from. For instance, is it Dharma Shastra, or is it about Artha Shastra, or like about Kama or Moksha, or whatever classification system, because there might be some contradictions as well, that somewhere people in like Dharma Shastra or Moksha Shastra, something may be mentioned which is not there in Arogya Shastra, like beyond Yama Niyama or the do's and don'ts of living. Ayurveda doesn't so much focus on yoga and other things. There are no verses at all in Ayurvedic classical texts. But Yama Niyama is given importance in Dinacharya, Ritucharya, all those places. So I think sub-classification could be what is the focus of that text and what it says. So it is contextual. And I think the larger context of it is also good to understand the inner meaning. For instance, this word, achara, can be interpreted as practice as well as what you said. So I think unless you know the context, so some annotation to each of this, which context it is explained, that might strengthen the whole database. Just put one or two lines on where this is spoken and whether it is dharma, artha, kama, moksha, etc. That's another thing. Now, in one question that comes to me is that we know most of it, that eating at night is not good, or getting up early in the morning. But why is that it's not translated into the society today? I think that should be a critical question. So as an outcome, if you are writing a report or something, I think you may need to critique the development model as we discussed earlier, and saying that real transformation, or in sustainability science we call transformative education, why is it not happening on the ground? Why people are not changing? Because I know these are good. Like if you eat spicy food, it's not good for your body. But for lunch, you easily tend to take a little bit of pickle, then why, or dahi. So why is it not? So I think that is quite critical, and I don't think we because most of it is known to all of us, but that doesn't change thing. So that is another point. And most importantly, as we discussed in the morning, this is very normative. But I think we should put it in the social context, where we are talking about marginalized population, people who are poor, people who are extremely rich. So, but normatively it is easy to say that somebody should get up in the morning. But somebody who has worked all night or late night to get up in the morning. So I think if we are to translate, I think the idea of social and occupational determinants or environmental determinants play a very big role, or how marginalized. Green space we discussed. But in Afro-American community, exposure to green space is so minimum.
Because they are poor.
Because they either, urban slums they live, or they live in margins where the governance doesn't want to get involved making green space, etc. So this social Ayurveda is very normative in that sense, and it is very instructive. Vidhi and Nisheda are very strong, but I think we are living in a very uncomparable situation. So this is quite important. That's it. And I think one suggestion that I have is, like now there are indicators of well-being, like Maslow's framework you were referring to, Doctor, you mentioned. I think we are looking at many things. We are learning so many things now that can contribute to good health and well-being, like hladana, or being happy is one thing. So whether the text is giving any importance to hladana, or physical activity. Malla thing is there, but what level of thing? So maybe looking at with these angles specifically, like socializing. Now people say that if you have a good social life, your longevity and quality of life is good. So looking at these aspects, or accidents, because one of the largest cause of morbidity or mortality today is accidents, chemical accident or road traffic accidents, etc. So I think we can look at the indicators of good health and well-being in the contemporary understanding in research, and maybe look at the texts again to see whether there is anything specific about hladana, anything specific about accidents like the warfare and all that. So maybe create an indicator. Then I think, yeah, that's more or less thing. But one question I have in Dr. Sujatha's presentation as well as both, you put physical health diet and physical health lifestyle. Why? It's just health, no?
That was because there was another topic, mental health.
Because of okay, because okay.
So that can be removed. It can just be diet.
Yeah, it can. Yeah, and the last thing, in one of the slides, I think from you, I saw honey is banned.
Yes.
That's surprising, actually.
And that is from a Jain textbook. They advocate ahimsa. I think
Which is the textbook?
Jina Dharma. Textbook.
Oh, it's because of ahimsa, not any physical.
So, considering that, it may be good to include at some stage Bible, Quran, everything to show how religious influences are changing.
Also
The Jaina
contrasting.
system has come. Buddhism has influenced. All that has influenced. But Ayurveda has tried to be neutral here. Because even Gomamsa is indicated if necessary.
Yeah,
So, yes, only.
I'm done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, so yes, because this achara, that point, that because we are trying to present this whole thing from a behavior change intervention, and I think the good word is achara. I wanted to discuss that also. And as Unni said, normally when we say achara, we consider it as a religious practice or ritual. But in Ayurveda, it is used in the sense of bringing out behavioral change. Ityachara samasena yam prapnoti samacharan. So that is a strong basis for telling that we do have that behavioral, approach. Now, in terms of the other thing, in reality, I think in food at least we saw, it's not there in Ayurvedic text. In Ayurvedic text, there is a discussion about how can poor patients do all these treatments. In Charaka Samhita, there is a discussion. So for Daridra, he is giving other options also. Now, when it comes to hunger, because zero hunger is also one of the SDGs, and our texts seem to be really focused on hunger. And when there is hunger, there is no rule. Manusmriti is also saying, even if you steal food when you are hungry, they should not be punished. Otherwise, Manu has a very, stringent punishment system. In Arthashastra also it is there. But hungry people were exempted from that. Usually Ayurveda says you should not eat food in the night, midnight. But if you are hungry, then you are allowed to eat even at midnight. So these kind of things are there. But I'm glad you brought that out. This is a deviation from the normative, approach that you can see. We'll have to look at more. And I think this you will find more outside Ayurveda than within Ayurvedic texts. Ayurvedic texts are trying to put you into a rigid thing. But Sushruta does talk about, the difference that if people are used to or require to sleep at night, wake up at night, that is actually discussed. But some other things which we wanted to also discuss with you is, we can see that in Manu's some textbooks, according to the Chaturvarnya they have given, it's not, this seems to be objectionable. Big problem. So, if you are a Shudra, the way you clean yourself is, different. So, those aspects we will need to kind of critique. So the question is, we would also need an internal criticism, even as we.
But this may be, just a quick point, this may be very racial comment, but don't take it that. What I feel is, like if you understand it as a biome, and if you are in proximity to the forest, and I don't think I should tell this way, but if you are exposed to a larger biome, so there are these genetic pools probably that needed to be protected. And that is why these distancing, this kind of...
No, this is not about distancing.
No, not in that relationship. But what I'm saying is, certain of these practices were somehow linked to the biome that you were existing in.
I think we should think about it and see if there is some good rationale. Another thing of concern we are seeing is gender bias. So that is also there. Like it's a punar vittam punar bharya, but no bharta. It's always, so those kind of challenges are there. Okay.
All the presentations are very informative and interesting. With regard to the mental and spiritual health, the overlay of topics that was given, 71 verses, it might have been more interesting if you gave us the Sanskrit terms. You gave the English, the big table, no? Self-discipline. So the original Sanskrit terms in the same box will also be nice, because sometimes it will look like a moral sense lesson. It was it's only in English. So we can connect and make our own sense in a regional language. That's just one suggestion. About the mental and spiritual health, from what little I understand from my field research in Tamil Nadu among people and a few texts in Tamil, is that the general understanding the ordinary people in remote area, villages with mental illness, they will say it is always an outcome of excess. If you study too much, you will become a loose, or too much in sensory indulgence, or too much of emotional engagement or something like that. It's often that's in folk, so it is that kind of belief is there. I don't know in the text. And there's an interesting link in one Tamil text on Paitya Nidana, very recent text. And there's a story how mental diseases originated. Despite risk of diversion, I'll tell you very briefly, but such stories also have some symbolically tell us what is the cause for proliferation of mental illness. So the story goes that both Vishnu and Brahma were fighting, they had a fight, who is big, who is greater. So they all brought the best weapons they can bring, and they started fighting with each other. Shiva came and couldn't stop them. These people got better and dangerous weapons that will not only destroy them but destroy everyone, and they were fighting. So Shiva had to stop it. Everybody was, the whole world, not the terrestrial earth started shaking because of the war. So then Shiva thought, and then he inflicted certain conditions by which these two people will lose their strength, mental strength. So he caused these kind of problems. So they lost their mental strength and the war reduced. Then they went back and they couldn't do anything because something happened to them here. And then they came back to Shiva and said, what did you do? Now we are totally feeling, we can't live normal life, something is wrong. Then he said, okay, now you both go to the world. And all those greedy fellows who take other people's wealth, the ones that destroy, who kill, who rape, he gives a long list of all what we call criminal activities, who write wrong documents and take the property, all that. And you go and create, you give these things and then give these diseases to them.
and then you will be relieved. You will come back. And so they went, and this is the origin of mental diseases, 54 types of mental, and it's a text. So I found the story very interesting. It is connected to greed, again consumption, profit, cheating, all those things, and as the moral basis of mental illness. So this. So I wanted to know, in your all these things, can you give us a coherent picture of what is mental health, mental illness? You have given us individual observations and statements, but is there a idea of mental illness, or what is not mental health? That's one question. Second, I have a doubt for a long time. When I study a lot of Western thinkers, we teach them, or Western modern Enlightenment philosophers, all the time. One common thing among the most creative 19th, 20th century philosophers, everybody has been admitted to the mental hospital once. So much so, I tell my students, maybe Marx was not, but everybody has suffered one nervous breakdown, then they wrote a good book. So I feel, when will I suffer a nervous breakdown? I'm doing yoga, I'm doing meditation. Unfortunately or fortunately, I have not suffered one. I seem to be quite okay. So I will never become a great creative thinker. All the leading philosophers in the 1920s, they have had one or two. If two means 2-3 books you can write. If you have one, you can. So this is a very big puzzle for me. The opposite view is here. Not opposite. So these fellows say, no, excessive intellectual engagement will lead. My informants in Tamil village told me, don't do too much. During my PhD, I went and wrote notes. I said, I have to write this book. They said, be careful. All these people who study too much will become loose. You will be more confused. So this is a question, how entire civilization, even schizophrenics produce very good books. So mental illness is not something bad. That's what many modern philosophers, postmodern philosophers say. It's okay, you be a little bit, Wittgenstein.
You know, divergent, no?
Now they are saying Wittgenstein used to have suicidal tendencies, but he said, but that's allowing, he says, only because I feel like this, I'm able to write well, do better, overcome myself. So I'm saying civilizationally, the views about what constitutes mental health are very different. Here you have a possibility. But another very important question in anthropological work done by Arthur Kleinman, he did a study of Taiwanese healers and Western psychiatric patients. He is saying in Eastern cultures, including India, mental illness, we don't have many words for emotion or psychic symptoms. We always say, even if you're scared, you say, I have stomach, burning sensation in stomach, churning sensation. It's somatization. Somatic symptoms are given, but emotional symptoms are not given because we don't have, everything is somatized. I tend to agree, based on my informants' understanding also, that Paitya Nidanam text also, that if you are mentally ill, they give you various treatments, oil, Shirodhara and all. There's no counseling mentioned in any text. So is there a somatization of mental illness? It will be of great interest, because there they say psychotherapy, psychoanalysis. You have psychoanalysis, psychotherapy and psychiatry. Psychiatry medicates, psychoanalysis, psychotherapy counsels. That division is here. Here there is a somatization, and this has been written about in anthropology. There's a lot of good work on disease, illness and all. I thought I can learn something from you. That's second. Third, on Natya Shastra, when you spoke, you said it's surprising that Natya Shastra non-medical text talks about medicine, but I think they have a theory of emotion, Navarasa.
Yes.
And they talk about mind and body coordination.
Correct.
And can you see, instead of, can we see Natya Shastra and Ayurveda as two different approaches to mind and body?
Surely, ma'am.
So if we look at such fundamental level concepts, I think there is a connection there. Then we can get some nice ideas from there. This is just a suggestion. This is also something that at some point I would have liked to do. I used to be a Bharatanatyam dancer. So One. Very quickly, the other two, food is one other suggestion for all the three sessions. Maybe it is already there. I didn't pay attention, or you didn't have time to say. One thing is your physical health, food, sustainability, mental health. There is a internal connection between the verses. For instance, food is connected to ecology. A lot of people say, my informants again in Tamil villages say, the moment you say why you are unhealthy, they'll say plants are unhealthy. You have put chemical pesticides in plants. Animals are consuming the hay from that pesticide. Then we are consuming that milk and meat. So we are part of the cycle. Why? They will say food is the only main cause of ill health. Why? These people told me, they are all so-called illiterate, backward, according to block development officials. They said this population is the most illiterate, and they are the ones I went and interviewed. They told me clearly, see, why food is the only main cause of disease is that of anything that goes inside the body, the food is only thing, part of the ecology that you internalize, digest, and it becomes part of you. So you have part of an ecological chain, you consume, then I said, in the end you die and become part of the same earth. So there is a cycle, there's a symbiotic connection between food consuming, excretion and so on. And so it's many cycles over time. So so this connects all your different sectors. Do you find such ideas? You might find in Ayurveda, I don't know about your other non-medical literature. So maybe it will contribute to your concepts. That is one. About Annam, I was looking forward to the discussion on Annadana, because this book Annam Bahu Kurvita by M.D. Srinivas, beautiful book. It says all our Shastras everywhere, even in Manimegalai, Tamil, the giving food, Akshay Patram is mentioned. Giving food is the greatest. And there's one punishment for someone is constant hunger, Yanaiti Pasi. And then the first, she overcomes that disease by giving food to others. So we think when you are very hungry, you should consume. But here it is said that such things are there. The long and short of it is Annadan and other moral ideas about food, giving food, etc. might be there. And lastly, I want one important suggestion, one thing I was looking for is when you give textual verses and connecting with Maslow or with evolution, etc. is one idea. But I think they will be richer if we connect with ethnographic studies. For instance, Mallapuran, many things you might find among wrestlers. There are ethnographic studies of wrestlers. They, our own student, one JNU student, after she took she's saying, my grandfather is a wrestler. They are Yadavs. Their grandfather is a wrestler. She went and did field work and she found it very interesting. So wrestling community writings are there. So Mallapura, we will get a complete picture by studying the text and the corresponding community or region. Then we'll have, okay, how much of that is found. You might find reasonable good correspondence there. Lot of works are there. So similarly, food. Lot of ethnographic studies on food habits of different parts of India are available. Nice studies are there. So some of these things you have said might be corroborated or contested in actual practice by people. So that it's a little bit more work on this side, but it will be very helpful to connect the text with ethnographic studies on those communities, and people like us will be very happy to pitch in and also to learn. This is what we are looking for. Do the texts have had an influence over the lives of the people, or if that influence is waning, what is happening? So this we think will be valuable. Thank you so much.
I think you should read her book, Health by the People.
Exactly.
It's
I
a
was just thinking.
fantastic work in Pondicherry. She talks about internalizing ecology.
Exactly. Okay. So I have to begin by saying that I think I. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Thank you, ma'am, for those comments. Actually, regarding Annadanam, so far from the verses that we have compiled, we have not got any reference, but.
Dayamannam Sudhavade. So, people afflicted by, there are 4 danas which are said to be very important, including Arogyadana. One of the 4 danas is Annadana. So, there are verses on it.
It's such an important part of our culture, that thing. Not until recently it was done in.
So it is said that Shudhadura is the disease of hunger that shouldn't afflict anybody. So Annadana is very first.
Yeah. Means I'm sorry that we missed that context. We had not added it here, but we have made a note of it. And regarding ethnographic, I think it will really be very interesting. So we'll try to find connecting studies and then relate it with these topics. Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, regarding the mental illnesses that you said, like people who are such thinkers and all, also having some issues, and when they suffer with some, so yeah, this is even our science, I think they talk about such incidences, like when you really fall into some deep emotional when you have some very deep emotions, that time you get enlightenment about how you should handle your emotions. And that's how, even that way, even Gita is depicted like that. When Arjuna had that Arjuna Vishada Yoga, like when he had that sorrow, only after that he came out of it. He got that enlightenment. That is when Sri Krishna. So that idea is, I think, there. And regarding the different mental personalities that you said, that is also there, I think, like some people like Narayana Brandhan and all, like who are extraordinary people, but they had some personality issues, but they were very great thinkers and great philosophers. So that aspect is also there, I think, like in our tradition. Yeah.
No, but the idea is that, pain, dukkha is a teacher. We have this idea that it is not that they need to be mentally sick always. I am in disagreement with that. You don't need to become mentally sick to be creative, but you need to face stress or dukkha. That is our concept. Otherwise, everybody has to become mentally sick before they can become kriyaya. So, in fact, in Mahabharata, Kunti is telling that please give me sorrow, so that I can refine myself spiritually. So this idea that exposure to dukkha helps you to cope and become strong, I think that is what it is being understood. Because when they go through this crisis, because the lack of that spiritual strength, they have to really sink before they come up. Whereas in our tradition, mental health was preparing yourself. That sorrow is unavoidable. So preparing yourself to cope up with that sorrow in such a way that you come out of it. It's not that with mental health is such a rosy picture where you are completely balanced and like a rishi, always smiling. No, there is a lot of pain and sorrow. But I think what is interesting in our tradition is that there is this support from the spiritual, dimension, bringing that into the this Yoga Shastra also says, Heyam Dukkham Anagata, remove the sorrow before it arrives. So the whole emphasis was on being prepared for these situations and coping with it. But they had to get exposed to these kind of stresses without being overwhelmed by them. That was a whole training. Whereas I think in the West it is more, you get exposed to it, learning it the hard way, then coming out of it.
You undergo the
Pain,
you
undergo.
understand it rationally. No, most of them were non-believers. So you live it like that.
Yes.
That is another.
I think that's another. Yeah, and in terms of somatization, I think in Ayurveda we have this approach. Everything, tatha, so if a person is mentally sick, we actually treat the body. So cleanse the body and the mind will become calm. That is the whole idea. Not work on the body, but work on the tathasya suddha dehasya prasadam labhade mana. That is what Ashtanga Hridaya says. That is preventive. That is more preventive. When the mind is already disturbed, what Ayurveda says is the body and mind are like taptajya grada, ghee and the iron pot. When one is affected, the other gets affected. When the mind is already disturbed, it is easier to handle it through the body. When the body is affected, you can heal it using the mind. So they consider the body and mind as one continuum. The body is just an extension. So this is also indicating how we looked at the body and mind. They are not two separate things. Whereas this in Western thinking, that dichotomy has happened. And that is why we did not have, it is not somatization in my opinion. Mind is, mind and body are considered as part of one continuum.
Somatization is a term used by Arthur Kleinman.
Oh, yeah, I know.
He says the East somatizes the symptoms. Even the language, we have less words for emotional disturbance.
But that is, I think, because this dichotomy has happened in the West. So that is why they are thinking of that as, this idea of somat. In India, our tradition, body and mind can be, they continue. Yes.
There is so therefore there is a somatization in the sense that you can treat the mind through the body and the body through the mind. Is possible. They are just continuum, not identical.
Not identical. Yes.
I have to confess that I think I'm guided by Ayurvedic principles so much that after I eat lunch, then I feel sleepy. So I was not able to totally focus, I have to confess, though I have seen the presentations earlier, so that was great advantage. So I will respond more on the basis of what I had seen earlier, and of course the wonderful comments that came from Unni and Sujatha. I have a couple of comments on the presentations, very small ones, but more on the conceptual orientation of this. One or two things. When you talk about substance abuse, that's one example I want to take. Now, what are known as substances? See, when there are two different kinds of substances. One are the chemical substances that are being used. The others like weed, which is not a... Now we know that weed is something that was part and parcel of the smoking tradition in India. It was not... when you smoke certain kinds of tobacco and you smoke weed, it just affects your mind and body differently. But it was not classified as a substance. You know what I mean? So, I would hesitate to see it as a substance like that, because that's not how it was perceived here. Now, they've gone through this whole cycle of first seeing it as a substance, making it illegal, then realizing that no, they have advantages, they have some medicinal value, then they partially allow it for medicinal use, etc. So, they are going through all that cycle. Here, the fact that we have a completely different perception of these things should be the starting point. That's my sense. Also about, when we think about mental health and so on, I think the context in which we are speaking about, again, because for me the political economy of all these questions is very important. The way in which our lives are structured, what we live life for, and thereby how do we live life. If I have to work, all of us who are academics, okay, we don't even work in the corporate sector. Those of us who are academics and who wish to produce, who wish to write and so on, constantly under so much pressure to produce things. And that affects the whole life cycle in which we live. And so there, whatever we are to understand about our mental health situation has to be linked with the purpose of life. Like you said right at the beginning. I mean, why, what do we want from life? What is it that we hope to achieve? And if my generation has suffered one set of things, the generation after us, all these young people, and it would have been nice to hear some of them to hear, if we still have some time, just to hear their responses about, from what I can see, my students, so I'm, all my children, a majority of them have a completely different cycle. They don't have something called a night. They sleep at all odd hours. They work through the entire night. We used to work late into night, but we knew that that was a deviation. That you're staying up to work is a deviation. You really should sleep by a certain time, etc. But they work. And the thing is, when I say this, please, I must make a disclaimer that I don't mean this in any pejorative way. I don't mean this, as I'm not mocking at this. I am really amazed at the way they function. And the thing is that they stay up all night and then they come back to class and they're sitting there. How do you do it? And then the other day I saw on Instagram, I saw this very senior wellness expert, what is she called? Some Mukherjee, who was talking about the circadian rhythm of the body, where, when you sleep at a certain time, then your body recovers, it repairs itself, and so on. I'm sure we have, of course, the corresponding, I don't know it, so because I'm not a doctor, so I don't know. But what exactly is happening to their lives and why is it? So partly when they're students, or, look at the kinds of, look at our economy in which we have these call centers that function for 24 hours, in which there are 8-hour shifts, and there are some people who work for months on end at the night shift. So, will this person necessarily go crazy? Will they necessarily be unhealthy? These are things that we really need to think about. And do we have some understanding of their context in which they can stay healthy, both in body and mind? So, I think that when we are, I know the purpose of this project is to actually collect, an understanding about health, etc., etc., from, and it's, you're getting it from all kinds of literature. But we need to remember that when we are talking about the contemporary application of these things, that when we are drawing from a certain literature, remember that that literature is written in a certain context. And that political economic context cannot be, cannot be divorced from what they are producing. So now, does that mean that because the context has changed, they become irrelevant? No. So, but if we are to continue to think of them as relevant, then what has to be the frame? So this then brings me to the main, sort of issue that I want to address, which is that when we think about bringing all this knowledge together, let us think of the knowledge as it is emerging from contexts, from the ground, and what it is telling us about health, illness, etc., without constantly referring to the parameters of knowledge as they are generated from this modern knowledge. We don't need to say, see, what we have, it is reflected in something that they are writing. On the one hand, we are saying that this is a 3,000-year-old knowledge tradition which has been, developed. Then we compare it to 200-year-old books and concepts. Why? This compulsion, I think this understanding of Indian knowledge systems as good as anything else, this we have to get out of this frame. We say that, look, this is how we have understood it, and our strengths are different from the strengths that modern knowledge and medicine comes from. So I think our biggest strength is what I also said in the morning, which is that it is ecologically located, that it is diverse, it understands that there is no one size fits all. that it understands that if I am, from a certain, from the arid part of North India, and you are from this lush tropical part of South India, then the way in which our constitutions are made are different. We eat different things. We are constituted differently, and yet we can find the common ways in which our good health is something that we can understand. This is our greatest strength. We do not try to homogenize bodies, illnesses, and any kind of solutions. If we start with that, then even our presentation will be different. The way in which we are looking at the material and how we are presenting the material is good. So I am actually raising a kind of foundational question in terms of the orientation of even your gaze about your own medical literature and non-medical, whatever literature you're looking at. That's very important. So, and I'm happy to think with you on this and be more specific and so on. I think this would actually then locate, and this has been our problem with Ayurveda for a very long time now. We went through that whole phase when we were trying to validate according to biomedical parameters. Then we got out of it, and then some of you did such good work in creating new parameters. So we've been through this whole thing already once. So I think that confidence has to come from locating our conceptual categories in our own ecologies and seeing what strengths they give us. And I think those of us who dabble with knowledge, one thing we all understand, that not every knowledge has the answers to all questions. Why? We don't have to have answers to all questions. We have valuable things to say about many things. That's good. That's great. We don't need to go beyond that. Also, since there was some discussion, this is not directly related to just these presentations, but I wanted to make one small comment about different sources. I appreciate, Ram, that you said that this is, we are looking at non-medical Sanskrit literature as a source. Fair enough. And that's fine. I think that the more appropriate kinds of sources which denote assimilation and different sources are different medical texts that came. So, for instance, and different, not from religious, so we are not looking at Hindu scriptural sources as sources for medicine. No. So it's not the correct, I would say, if you don't mind my putting it this way, the correct correspondence is not Quran and Bible. The correct correspondence would be with the numerous medical texts that come from Unani or from the Galenic traditions, which have actually constantly interacted with our traditions here and produced many different kinds of understanding that have come here. But, so when we are talking about a Bharatiya identity, and if we have to go by the norms that you're saying, that is the kind of thing that would be. But I take your point that this needs to be limited and defined so that we at least get a clear picture of what is available in the non-medical literature in Sanskrit, and say that, okay, this is the literature that produces this kind of understanding. I would be perfectly happy to go with that. I just thought that, I should just contribute to that point. But that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any comments from anybody? I think, yes, this is very important. We are falling into the trap of, trying to contextualize these things in the current requirements and needs. It's a bit difficult to escape that, because one of the reasons is the project is also designed in such a way to find out how we can integrate with the current efforts. That is why we are also falling into that trap. Yes, we will need some effort and some external help also to come out of that, framework and change our gaze. Because then only, I think, as Unni has also been pointing out, or all of you have been pointing out, that we can really bring something additional into the whole dialogue.
We can contemporize it, just to intervene, that there's a lot of work in sociology, anthropology, a lot of empirical studies on communities, their practices, eating practices, politics, a lot, language, artisanal groups. we can make this available, and it'll be very interesting to see that there will be a match, like the Mallapuran is one, but on food, on eating and all.
Yeah.
And then it will give us a richer picture of the country, and that's also contemporary.
Yeah.
A lot of that. And then maybe it will be an initial step in building this kind of a knowledge base.
Address.
Yeah,
So
that's
now
all.
the thing is, this. I just wanted to add something to what Madhulika also mentioned, because in India we don't have a strict classification of religion, science. So it's very difficult. Like when we look at, this was a problem also, that when we put the classification of Sanskrit literature, it's the whole spectrum, religion, philosophy, everything is coming together. Whereas in the West, they have separated the religious from the secular literature. So Bible would get classified under purely religious. So that is why we have also this challenge. Right now it is not that we are not interested in looking at other literature of the world. Yeah, and I agree with what you said. If we are going to bring in Bible, we have to bring in everything else, including Shakespeare also maybe, because we are here looking at Kalidasa, not just some what you would call as a religious text. But the challenge is that we are also working within the framework of a project, and that project is mainly only encouraging looking at the IKS in a particular context. So maybe once we lay the foundations and have the thing clear, we can come out of it and expand more.
I do think that projects also should have the outcome of telling people who design.
Yes, that
Something
yes.
that's severely limited, and I'm sorry, but this understanding of what is IKS.
That is still kind of not very clear. That's not very problematic.
And it's Bharatiya knowledge system.
Yes.
What chronology you can use to define that?
That is not clear.
Yeah.
That is not clear. There's still a lot of debate happening there.
Now, if you take, for instance, Kabir Ki Dohe or Tulsi Ki Dohe, it's full of
Yeah, the whole tradition is also very eclectic. So, it has gone through very intense ups and downs, and so that requires more clarity. It is still evolving, but the thing is,
And what is Prakrit and Sanskrit? That's another discussion. Where does it start? Chronologically.
no, we have restricted ourselves to Sanskrit texts for pragmatic purposes, because within a short time period, what is accessible now, if we get into Prakrit or some other system, then it goes beyond our expertise, and yes. And also the other traditions, we are not experts, so we wouldn't be able to venture into those areas.
But in that case, maybe to the nomenclature, Bharatiya knowledge system could be reconsidered, because this is based on Sanskrit texts. But there are Pali, other texts, regional texts from.
Yeah, so that we have already proposed. That we should include regional literature and other traditions.
Because in Siddha, now they are saying of the 18 Siddhas, couple of them are, Yugi Muni is not even Indian. So you may find many such characters even for 15, 16, 17.
No, I think what has been naturalized in India should also be included, because it has contributed. Yes,
I think exactly.
exactly. Because then if you get into the religious thing also, but they have also been naturalized. What is naturalized is now part of the whole system.
But now they are saying Bharatanatyam was contributed by Tawai's in Karnataka and Andhra. All this historical information is coming out. Very interesting work is coming out. So we could have a more.
Yeah, that is for expanding. We restricted to Sanskrit literature to make it manageable. Because if you go beyond that, it's very difficult to narrow down. We'll have to examine so many things. Looking at the linguistic diversity, religious diversity of our country, to make a representation of every religion or is going to be difficult. It's beyond the scope of this project.
That can come in the preamble.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. That will be helpful. That will be helpful.
Lastly, one quick thing. You mentioned gender, caste, and other. I think
We don't know how to handle that. I don't know. That's why we are asking you. How do we handle that?
as part of internal criticism. Again, I do write on Siddha medicine, but lot of Siddha yogis are highly abusively about women. Now, how does one write about this? So you have to mention in the beginning, yes, they are like this. These kind of verses are there. Then they say these things. So we have to bring it as part of internal criticism.
Yes.
And have some note or something, or engage with it. The Varna system is there. Some specific caste specific comments will be there, or general on occupations. This occupation is good, that is bad, etc. All everything, if we bring to the table, it is fine.
Yeah. We have to put it in a critical context, and then.
And you can add critical comments to it.
Yes. That's
and
what
say
we
this
thought.
is
We will put
on
some
women,
critical.
etc. That may be counteracting things also.
Even simple things like whether women are ready to use Ayurvedic or they are more or males are more. So
No, there
once
is
you
no
get the
history
data,
of any female
we have to be-
Vaidya in the
we'll have to-
whole tradition of
we'll have to
Ayurveda.
conduct studies and ask them questions and interview them so we can get some data.
This is not about how people are using it today. This is what is available in the literature,
Literature.
what it says about what is to be done or how it is to be done. So it's
Yes.
not a contemporary study in that sense. It's not about what people are thinking today.
But they are limiting to
Yes,
tradition.
absolutely. And the literature.
And then how we can actually bring it in. That is the question. So today there has been a big change. Today the way Ayurveda is practiced, the role of women in development of Ayurveda is completely different. But when we look at it historically, there is this gender bias, there is this caste, these things. I mean, that's undeniable.
Part of tradition, for instance, when modern thinkers use Greek or Roman, Greek, Aristotle did support slavery. He did say women have, because their wombs travel, they are not capable of thinking. Such beliefs have existed right into the 19th century.
That is the thing. It is not
Profound
something
philosophers-
very unique to the
Yeah,
Indian.
absolutely.
That is
It's
not.
such views about women have been expressed in Greek and Roman thinking, and they have been there very much into 19th, 20th century. Genetic Nobel Prize winner also said women have small brains. Such things. So what Western people do, scholars, is you mention that also, you critique for that, and then whatever else is there, we have to take and present or engage with it with those limitations. That's
One another thing is like, I'm also a bit concerned about creating a dichotomy between what is Western and modern and traditional. So I want to get also some advice on how do we, because there are certain things, it's one way of escaping. Now if you say this is the traditional view and this is the modern
it's
view,
very problematic.
it is very problematic. Because there are certain things which can be validated through modern methods also, and we may have to correct our tradition.
Absolutely.
And there is the vice versa situation also.
Absolutely.
So we need to draw the lines very carefully. Otherwise, we are going to create kind of a schizophrenic situation where we have to live in two worlds. One,
No, actually, I think the way the whole Indian knowledge system landscape, ecosystem is being developed, in that the way, I mean, if we were to just do these two things, that we offer an internal criticism of the text that we're reading and the concepts that they are espousing, and we are saying that we do not wish to create a dichotomy between, we do not wish to be using their parameters to judge our work, and we do not wish to constantly say that we are so different that we are not, to create a divergence. If we say even these two things, Ram, the way people are studying Indian knowledge systems blindly and it's completely uncritically, in that it will create a very new contribution, much required. I think we should stop. Everyone's getting quite
I
tired.
think Sujatha madam, we have not heard from
I think the papers have been presented very nicely. very, very informative, especially for people like me. I'm not from this field, Ayurveda at all. And the experts are here. They've come up with very nice suggestions. Just a few comments were there. In case, like if you have already concentrated on certain good characteristics, characteristics of some human beings, like some people have been taking up the self-transcendation. They are going beyond a level. So could you try to find out any relationship? Means they are more healthy compared to the others because they have lived long. As per Maslow's theory, there are so many stages. So a person has come to the stage of self-transcendence, like saints and gurus and all. So they've gone to that level. So could you find out anything if there is a relationship, direct relationship between these characteristics which they have and the stages they have gone through and a good health? So if it is not, if has it been touched in Ayurveda, like Sanskrit literatures and all?
No,
Could you
Ayurveda,
identify something?
yeah, this is something which I've been also very interested and curious, whether becoming spiritual, and generally we do say that that has got health benefits, but there is no guarantee that we will live long. There are saints who have died at very young age with very terrible diseases.
So
Very
if somebody
terrible
could,
disease. We have even from modern times Ramana Maharshi, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, who all had cancer and other things. Because our concept is that certain prarabdha, certain things will come. You can get health from what you do in this life, but there are certain other factors which may still make you sick. And what we are talking about is to make you strong enough to cope with it. How Ramakrishna Paramahamsa coped with his cancer is what we consider as a sign of health. That they are able to handle that situation much more magnanimously in a much more better way. But definitely they have mentioned that if you are mentally less stressed, if you are more spiritual, your chances, the risk for diseases are definitely reduced. There is one verse in Ashtanga Sangraha, I'm sorry to go to the Sanskrit, Artheshva Labhyeshva Agrida Prayatnam Kritadaram Nityam Upaya Vatsu Jitendriyam Nanu Patandi Rogaha Tatkala Yuktam Yadi Nasti Daivam. So they are saying you do all these things, definitely you will not get sick, provided there is no Daivam or the effect of karma. So if that is there, whatever you do to compensate, you will get its benefits, but this will override that and you will still become sick.
Thank you. And there are, I agree, there are, if the people are practicing and accepting moral values, good human beings. So if we are good human beings, if we take up charitable activities and all, I feel, it leads to good health, quality health, and longevity will also be there. So these are very important points which you have covered.
Yeah. Right. One thing I just in response to whether they really achieved long life, I was intrigued by a statement in Sushruta Samhita, where Sushruta is giving a guideline for doing dissection of dead bodies. One of the criteria he puts is avarsha shatikam. Choose a body that is less than 100 years of age. As though he was finding it difficult to get a body that was less than 100 years. So, because if, today you don't have to tell people don't dissect a body that's more than 100 years. Because at least by a road accident, some people would die before you are 100. But Sushruta clearly specifies avarsha shatikam. Don't take a body. So, more it appears, I'm not sure about this, we need to explore, but I was struck by that statement. He seems to imply that it was more easy to get a body that is more than 100 years old than a body that is less than 100 years old.
I have a quick comment on the methodology. Probably because now evidence is becoming quite important also. Because otherwise, as Sujatha said, it is like a moral and ethical discourse, it appears. So wherever you find some contemporary study or something, in the commentary you can mention that, so that it also gets integrated into a little bit in the contemporary practice.
You're right, right. Yes.
Research methodology, the data collection, sample and all that. That if that is there, then we'll have more scientifically.
So,
Do they want to ask any questions?
yes, this is the time for. Any questions? No. They're usually not asking questions. That's why.
So,
Like Varsha Satyakam, I think you should make a criteria that if you don't ask questions, you are not eligible to study.
Studies. Yeah, I pointed out earlier that if you read Charaka Samhita, there is no class if there is no question.
Yes.
Yeah. Otherwise, the teacher would sit and smile. It will be a smiling session. So after 1 hour, the teacher will leave smiling.
No questions.
No, actually, in those days, today teachers are going to the classroom. Actually, in all those texts, this is something which I have noticed. Students will move to the teacher's room actually. So the thing is that seeking should be there. Today it is the whole design is giving. So a teacher comes to the room and gives the lecture. There, student goes to the teacher's room. Teacher will wait. If there is no question, smile, 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 and then they will leave. That's all.
So we'll implement it back.
In JNU, then students will prefer to smile.
No, they'll ask questions.
They'll ask questions, I know.
But now it is reducing. They all want to quickly finish, but generally they will ask questions. Even if they have not read and come, they will ask questions.
No, but in Charaka Samhita, there is also a discussion. The commentator tells how to ask a question. Sapradushtena bhavena, without any ill intentions. Vishuddhena antaratmana, with that clear intention for knowing the truth. Shishyena samyak prashtasya gurur buddhi prakashade. So that whole modality of how the questioning should be, it's all discussed in great detail. So I think we have some time constraints also. So we are coming to the end of our discussion. I hope it was interesting for all of you.
yes, of course. Very enlightening.
Yeah, we would have loved to get more inputs, but this is also to touch base and connect. So it's not the end of it. I think please consider this as a beginning, and we will be in touch. And as we shape this up into more organized material, we would anticipate your inputs and suggestions. Okay.
So thank you all for this such a wonderful discussion and such a wonderful brainstorming, and it was really lively for us to gain so much from you all, and thank you for gracing this occasion. And as we come to the end of this brainstorming session, now call upon Ramanohar sir to give away memento and a certificate for participating in our symposium. So I call upon Dr. Unnikrishnan Payyapalli. Sujatha Warrior. Now, I invite Dr. Sujitra for the vote of thanks.
Nam Shivaya. My humble pranams at the lotus feet of Amma. Alone I walk fast, but together we walk further. I owe this vote of thanks to one and all in the hall today. I am honored to be here to express my gratitude to all of you who have contributed to a great extent to making this event a success. First and foremost, I extend my deepest gratitude to our Dean, Sampujya Swamiji Shankaramritananda Puri. Swamiji is in Madurai, so he could not join us for this program today. But without his unwavering support and inspiration, this program would never have been possible. Thank you, Swamiji, for the invaluable support. We have Prashant Brahmachari here with us today. So, Prashant Brahmachari ji is with the IKS Center for Darsana Vyakarana. So, he has also been supporting us and encouraging us in conducting these programs. Thank you, Brahmachari. A special thanks to Dr. P. Ram Manohar, who is spearheading this program and guiding the entire team in the right direction from its inception. My heartfelt thanks to our invited panel of experts. We have Dr. Unnikrishnan, Dr. Sujatha V, Dr. Sujatha Warrior, and Dr. Madhulika. They accepted our invitation. They kept aside a lot of their busy schedules and commitments and made themselves available here. And it is with their valuable suggestions and review comments that we are going to be, making lots of incorporating the changes and suggestions that they made today. It is going to be added to our database, what we are planning, and it has definitely helped us in improvising the content. I extend heartfelt gratitude to my fellow IKS members, Dr. Shyam, Dr. Sushma. Sushma ji is not here, but she is also there in this project. She is on deputation outside India. And Dr. Devi for the extensive effort that they have made in, the conception of this, since the inception of this project. I would like to specially mention our doctors from the research department, Dr. Devisri, Dr. Geetu, and Dr. Kartika, for their support and hard work in organizing this program. We also have our staff from Research Lab, Deepu, Nandakumar, and Minsha, who were working behind the scenes in the coordination of the program. The audience, for being an essential and important part of this program. A big thank you to the team of AOC, ICTS, event management team, guest room staff, for providing the audio visual support, making all the necessary arrangements for the event. Your support has been invaluable. Amrita Holidays, Amrita Travels, they made all the arrangements for travel, so we just had to make the calls and everything was taken care of. So as we conclude this event, on behalf of the Amrita IKS Center, I thank each and every one of you who has made this event a remarkable one. We hope today's event has been enriching and inspiring. We look forward to your continued support in our future endeavors. Thank you. Namah Shivaya.